Where else can be compared to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, famous for its feasts, magical creatures, a forbidden forest brimming with secrets, and of course, truant children who constantly and casually break rules that could get them killed, or worse, expelled. But what if we took a detour? Today, we're asking, what if Harry Potter was sorted into Ravenclaw, the house of intellect, riddles, and a few peculiar quirks and attributes? Ready to dive in? Then hop on your broomstick and follow us. And no, we're not talking about what if Voldemort used SPF 50, or what if Dobby opened a spa for stressed out house elves. Today, we're looking at a different world. A world where Harry Potter, the boy who lived, swaps Gryffindor's hot and impatient bravery for Ravenclaw's pursuit and desire for knowledge and creativity. This story involves strategy, riddles, and maybe a bit of chaos. Believe us, this is one journey that might surprise you. Let's break it down. Before we get into it, we need to remind you with all seriousness for a moment that this channel is all about blending humor with serious dives into the wizarding world. We need your support to keep the magic alive, so hit that subscribe button and show us some love by liking the video and dropping your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on our next What If adventure. Alright, back to the fun. First, let's meet the founder, Rowena Ravenclaw. She's described as one of the greatest witches of her age, renowned for her wisdom and sharp mind. But here's the thing. Rowena's story isn't all sunshine and enchanted rainbows. According to legend, she designed the house to value wit and learning above all else. But she also had her share of tragedy. Rowena's own daughter, Helena Ravenclaw, better known as the Grey Lady, the house ghost, stole her mother's diadem. That's a fancy word for crown, in case you're not brushed up on medieval headwear. This diadem, which is said to enhance wisdom, eventually became one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. So yeah, Ravenclaw's history has its fair share of dark twists. But it's not all gloomy and sad history. Over the centuries, Ravenclaw has produced some of the most brilliant witches and wizards the wizarding world has ever seen. Famous Ravenclaws include Gilderoy Lockhart. Sure, he might be more style than substance, but you can't deny the charisma this guy has. And he did technically attend Ravenclaw, even if his accomplishments were more fraudulent fiction than fact. Phileas Flitwick, the head of Ravenclaw House during Harry's time at Hogwarts. A master of charms and dueling champion, Flitwick embodies the house's value of intelligence and skill. Luna Lovegood. And speaking of Luna, we'll get to her in a bit, but let's just say she's the typical Ravenclaw. Creative, unique, and unapologetically herself. Ravenclaw also has a bit of a reputation for fostering unconventional thinkers. It's a place where asking why or what if isn't just encouraged, it's a way of life. This brings us to the house's darker moments. While Ravenclaws value intelligence, some wizards have twisted that into arrogance or even dangerous experimentation. Not all Ravenclaws have used their gifts for good, but we'll save that for another video. But here's a question for you. What happens when you're surrounded by brilliance, but your own talents don't fit the mold? Would Harry have thrived, or would Ravenclaw's pressures have held him back? Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it shortly. Let's talk about the vibe of Ravenclaw. Their common room is located in a tower with one of the best views of the Hogwarts grounds. But getting in? Not so easy. While Gryffindors shout a password and barrel through a portrait hole, Ravenclaws have to answer a riddle. Imagine coming back from a late-night astronomy lesson, only to have the door knocker ask you something like, which came first, the phoenix or the flame? There's no I forgot the password workaround here. You either know it, or you're sleeping in the hallway. This riddle tradition highlights one of Ravenclaw's key traits, the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. It's not just about getting the right answer, it's about how you think. Ravenclaw's values push students to question, explore, and expand their horizons, even if it means being a bit unconventional. Enter Luna Lovegood. Luna is, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating characters in the Harry Potter series. She's quirky, imaginative, and often underestimated by those around her. But Luna's true strength lies in her ability to see the world differently. She's deeply empathetic, fiercely loyal, and has an unshakable belief in her own unique perspective. That's Ravenclaw in a nutshell, valuing individuality and creativity as much as raw intelligence. Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's tackle the big question. What if, instead of Gryffindor, Harry Potter was sorted into Ravenclaw? First of all, picture this. It's September 1st, 1991. It's Harry's first night at Hogwarts, and everyone's nervously waiting. The Great Hall is packed, and 11-year-old Harry is nervously clutching the edges of his seat as the sorting hat is placed on his head, muttering in his ear. Harry's sitting there, sweating buckets under that ridiculously oversized hat, thinking, "Please not Slytherin, please not Slytherin." And instead of debating between Gryffindor and Slytherin, the hat has a different idea entirely. And then the hat says something that changes everything.
"You've got plenty of bravery, sure, but I sense a hunger for knowledge. A sharp mind that craves answers, and a tendency to overthink things,"
it declares.
"Ravenclaw!"
The room goes silent for a moment. Then, the Ravenclaw table erupts in polite applause. Harry's first thought, Raven what now? Harry barely knows what Ravenclaw even means. Sure, he's relieved it's not Slytherin, but this was nowhere on his bingo card. He's whisked away to the Ravenclaw table, where the students are quieter, let's say. There's polite applause, maybe someone gives him a little nod of approval, but the vibe is totally different from the Gryffindor's loud cheers and high fives. Harry's first thought, I've made a huge mistake. His journey would look very differently. For starters, his housemates would prioritize intellect and strategy over reckless bravery. It's here in Ravenclaw Tower that Harry's magical journey takes a distinctly different turn. Gone are the days of rushing headfirst into danger with Ron and Hermione. Instead, he's now surrounded by peers who debate the pros and cons of various magical theories over tea. Instead of Ron, his first close friend might be Luna Lovegood. Think about it. Luna's unconventional outlook would complement Harry's natural curiosity, and their shared experiences with loss would create a deep bond. Plus, imagine Harry's reaction to Luna's casual mentions of Crumple and Snorkags. Priceless, huh? But let's not forget Cho Chang, a fellow Quidditch player and Ravenclaw. Cho would likely take Harry under her wing during his first year. She'd introduce him to the house's unique traditions and help him navigate the academic pressures. Would their relationship still end in awkward disaster? Probably, but hey, at least it'd be interesting. Now, here's the thing about Ravenclaw. They're smart, but not just like Hermione obsessing over homework smart. We're talking philosophical debates at breakfast smart. Harry's barely unpacked his trunk, and already some fifth year is grilling him about whether time travel paradoxes make divination inherently flawed. Poor Harry just wanted to figure out where the bathroom was. I mean, imagine Hermione's face when Harry shows up to Transfiguration, quoting 3 footnotes from a book she hasn't read yet. So, would Harry have thrived under Ravenclaw's pressures? The answer is yes, but not without challenges. While he'd excel in academics and strategy, he might struggle to balance the weight of expectations with his own sense of purpose. It's a constant juggling act, but one that shapes him into a more well-rounded wizard. Speaking of Hermione, let's address the flobberworm in the room. Without Gryffindor as the common thread, does Harry still form the Golden Trio? Does Harry even become friends with Ron and Hermione? Well, yes and no. Harry and Hermione's friendship survives, of course. It's basically held together by their mutual love of not failing exams. But Ron? Poor, sweet Ron, he's a little left out. Ron's easygoing enough that he'd still chat with Harry in class or during meals, but their bromance, not quite as strong. It's hard to bond over late-night adventures when you're literally in different towers. Plus, let's not forget that Ron has a big family to lean on, and without Harry constantly dragging him into life-threatening situations, he's got more time to focus on his chess game and, not dying. As for Hermione, she'd totally vibe with Ravenclaw Harry. She'd probably show up to study sessions uninvited and end up debating magical theory with his housemates. But would she still help him fight a troll in the girls' bathroom? Well, that's less certain. Don't worry though, Ron finds his people eventually. But in this timeline, Harry's inner circle shifts, and his main crew would look pretty different. Cho Chang becomes an early mentor, teaching Harry the fine art of not losing your head during a Quidditch match. She'd help him refine his seeker skills and probably give him a crash course on how not to embarrass yourself in front of professors. And then there's Luna Lovegood. Luna would be the ultimate wild card in Harry's new friend group. Luna introduces Harry to the wonderful world of oddities and open-mindedness. Together, they make an incredible pair. The boy who lived and the girl who just kind of vibes. Then there's the dormitory situation. Ravenclaw Tower is stunning, no doubt. The view, impeccable. The vibe, very quiet study session with a side of existential crisis. But the entrance? That's a whole different story. To get into the tower, you have to answer a riddle. A riddle! Harry's coming back from Quidditch practice, exhausted, mud everywhere, and the door knocker's all like, "What has roots as nobody sees, is taller than trees, up, up, up it goes, and yet it never grows." And Harry, being Harry, is like, a blast-ended Scrooge? Spoiler alert, he probably spends a solid 20 minutes outside the door before a helpful second year takes pity on him. For the record though, the answer was mountain. Now, let's talk academics. Harry in Gryffindor was, let's just say, more of a wing it and hope for the best kind of student. But Ravenclaw Harry, he's a more studious student. In Ravenclaw, Harry's academic life would take center stage. The house's emphasis on learning means he'd spend more time in the library and less time sneaking around the castle at night. Instead of relying on luck and instinct, Harry would approach challenges with careful planning and research. This version of Harry masters spells faster, solves mysteries more efficiently, and, brace yourself, actually reads Hogwarts a history. Take the Philosopher's Stone, for example. In this timeline, Harry wouldn't just stumble into Fluffy's lair. He'd probably form a study group with Luna and a few overachieving Ravenclaws to analyze the clues and strategize a safe way to retrieve the stone. By the time they reach the final chamber, they've already predicted most of the obstacles. Sure, there'd still be a dramatic showdown with Quirrell Voldemort, but Harry'd be better prepared. The downside to Ravenclaw life? Overthinking. For instance, when Harry discovers the Mirror of Erised, he doesn't just see his parents. He spends weeks trying to dissect the philosophical implications of desire itself. Being in Ravenclaw isn't all enchanted books and eccentric friends though. There's pressure. Academic pressure, social pressure, and, oh yeah, the constant looming threat of Voldemort trying to kill Harry. But let's focus on the academics for a second. Ravenclaws are competitive. It's not enough to just pass your exams. You have to excel. Harry's first week in potions? Disaster! Snape is even worse when he doesn't have the excuse of, "You're a Gryffindor," to justify his bias. Meanwhile, Harry's Ravenclaw peers are casually brewing Wolfsbane potion by third year, just for fun. But it's not all bad. Under the influence of Ravenclaw's study culture, Harry actually starts applying himself. He spends more time in the library, learns some new spells that aren't directly related to dueling, and, wait for it, actually does his homework on time? Shocking, I know. Of course, Harry being Harry still manages to land himself in trouble. Only now, instead of sneaking into the restricted section looking for Nicholas Flamel, he's probably there trying to decipher some obscure text about ancient magical wards. Hermione's both impressed and slightly horrified. Let's take a closer look at Prisoner of Azkaban. A pivotal year in Harry's journey filled with time travel, betrayal, and of course, Dementors. What if Harry had been sorted into Ravenclaw? How would his approach to the events of the year change, and what would the outcomes look like? First, let's set the stage. In this alternative timeline, Ravenclaw Harry is naturally more inquisitive and methodical. While Gryffindor Harry often reacts to situations with gut instincts, Ravenclaw Harry would begin his third year by actively seeking answers to the mysteries surrounding Sirius Black and the supposed betrayal of his parents. His quest for knowledge would likely start the moment he overhears the adults at the Leaky Cauldron discussing Sirius's escape and his supposed link to Voldemort. Instead of waiting to accidentally learn about Sirius's connection to his parents during a Hogsmeade trip, Ravenclaw Harry might corner Professor McGonagall or even Lupin early on and press them for details. His intellectual curiosity, and perhaps a bit of persistence, would drive him to piece together a more complete picture. In fact, Harry might even sneak into the restricted section of the library to find out more about Sirius Black's trial or his role in the First Wizarding War. Now let's talk about his investigative nature. Luna Lovegood, Harry's fellow Ravenclaw, would almost certainly become his close ally during this time. Luna's ability to see beyond the obvious and entertain unconventional theories would complement Harry's growing suspicion that something about the official story doesn't add up. For instance, when Hermione and Ron are quick to condemn Sirius, Luna might propose that not everything is as it seems. After all, the wizarding world often gets its facts wrong. Just look at the Ministry's denial of Voldemort's return. One key difference in this timeline would be how Ravenclaw Harry uses the Marauder's map. Instead of employing it solely as a tool for sneaking around, he might analyze it more carefully, noticing patterns of movement and deducing secrets about the castle. For example, Harry might spot Peter Pettigrew's name on the map, much earlier than in the original timeline, leading to a confrontation with Ron about Scabbers. Imagine the drama when Harry lays out his evidence, pointing to Pettigrew's inexplicable presence on the map, and challenging Ron to explain why his pet rat is skulking around the castle like a criminal. This discovery would accelerate the plot significantly. Instead of being ambushed in the Shrieking Shack, Harry and his friends might devise a plan to expose Pettigrew, armed with evidence from the map and their own research. The eventual confrontation with Sirius Black would be less of a chaotic revelation and more of a calculated moment where the truth actually comes to light. Here's another thought. How would Ravenclaw Harry handle the Battle of Hogwarts? Would he approach it with the same daring or devise a completely new strategy? Stick around because we're gonna unravel that mystery towards the end of this video. Fast forward to the Order of the Phoenix. As the leader of Dumbledore's army, Ravenclaw Harry would take a far more organized approach. Instead of hastily organizing secret lessons, he'd develop a curriculum tailored to each member's strengths and weaknesses. Luna would help him create innovative practice methods. Think enchanted dummies with Raxpert repelling charms. Confronting Dolores Umbridge would also have a different tone. Ravenclaw Harry wouldn't just challenge her authority directly, he'd undermine it with clever schemes and quiet defiance. Picture Harry leaving anonymous notes filled with irrefutable logic that dismantle Umbridge's propaganda, or enchanting her quills to write truthfully when she tries to spin lies. Subtle, effective, and oh so satisfying. In Half-Blood Prince, Ravenclaw Harry's natural curiosity would drive him to research deeper into the mysteries of Voldemort's past. Instead of relying solely on Dumbledore's guidance, Harry might just take the initiative to research Voldemort's family history, discovering connections and insights that Gryffindor Harry overlooked. As for the Half-Blood Prince's potion book, Harry's Ravenclaw nature would make him appreciate its value, but also question its origins. He'd likely spend hours cross-referencing Snape's notes with established texts, discovering a few extra secrets that Gryffindor Harry missed. When it comes to the tragic events at the Astronomy Tower, Ravenclaw Harry's strategic thinking might lead him to anticipate Draco's actions and set contingencies in place. While the outcome might still be heartbreaking, Harry would approach it with a deeper understanding of the stakes and the people involved. Of course, we can't forget the whole defeating Voldemort thing, can we? How would Ravenclaw Harry handle the war against Voldemort? For starters, his approach to the Horcrux hunt would be much more methodical. He's not just gonna waltz into the Forbidden Forest with a wand and a prayer. He's gonna have a map, a backup plan, and possibly a PowerPoint presentation outlining potential outcomes. Luna's probably made the slides. Instead of charging into danger, he'd spend weeks researching potential locations and consulting ancient texts. Luna, of course, would be by his side, offering insights that others might overlook. The Philosopher's Stone fiasco? Solved in half the time. Why? Because instead of blindly stumbling into danger, Ravenclaw Harry works smarter, not harder. He figures out the mirror riddle faster, uses some clever charms to bypass the devil's snare, and, okay, he still nearly dies in the chess game, but some things never change. By the time the Tri-Wizard tournament rolls around, Harry's reputation as the smart one is firmly established. Instead of panicking about the dragons in the first task, he's calmly researching its behavioral patterns. He still ends up barely surviving, of course. It is Harry Potter we're talking about, but he looks a lot less frazzled doing it. As for the Horcrux hunt, game changer. Ravenclaw's love of puzzles means Harry's not only better equipped to find them, but he also gets a squad of intellectual heavyweights helping him out. Luna, Cho, and a few overachieving 7th years basically form a think tank to outsmart Voldemort. The final battle at Hogwarts would also be dramatically different. Instead of rallying the troops with a fiery speech about bravery, Ravenclaw Harry would take a more strategic approach. Picture this. He maps out the school's defenses with the precision of a chess master, using every secret passage, enchanted artifact, and protective spell available. His plan wouldn't just rely on brute force, it would be a carefully orchestrated mix of decoys, traps, and clever tactics. Instead of a full frontal assault, Ravenclaw Harry might devise clever strategies to outwit Voldemort and his forces. Imagine Harry setting magical traps in the Forbidden Forest, using enchanted Ravenclaw artifacts to confuse and mislead Death Eaters, or even leveraging the castle's ancient magic in ways that had previously been untapped. Ravenclaw Harry would likely approach Voldemort with more psychological tactics. He might use Voldemort's obsession with power and his fear of mortality against him. For instance, Harry could stage an elaborate ruse that makes Voldemort doubt the security of his Horcruxes, forcing him to expose himself in a moment of panic. This would make the final confrontation not just about raw magical power, but a battle of wits. Even the dialogue in the climactic moment would have a Ravenclaw flair. Instead of the iconic Expelliarmus ending, Harry might disarm Voldemort using an obscure charm he uncovered in some dusty tome from the restricted section. Something unexpected, poetic, and fitting for a Ravenclaw. And Luna? She'd play a crucial role, not just as his confidant, but as a leader in her own right. Imagine Luna inspiring the younger students with her unwavering optimism, reminding them that their individuality and creativity are their greatest strengths. She'd probably come up with some wildly unconventional, but oddly effective battle strategies. Picture Death Eaters getting caught in enchanted nets made of dirigible plums, or tripping over piles of strategically placed Raxperts. When it comes to the showdown with Voldemort, Ravenclaw Harry would approach it differently too. He wouldn't rely on sheer willpower or luck. Instead, he'd use his wit to outsmart Voldemort, exploiting the Dark Lord's arrogance and overconfidence. Perhaps Harry sets an elaborate ruse, leading Voldemort to believe he's already won, only to reveal that the Elder One's allegiance was never his to command. In the end, the victory would still hinge on Harry's deep understanding of love and sacrifice, but his Ravenclaw traits, intellect, creativity, and a knack for thinking outside the box would add an extra layer of depth to the story. And let's be honest, it'd be a lot of fun to watch Voldemort get outsmarted by a kid who spent the night before the battle solving riddles in the Ravenclaw common room. But what about the broader implications of Harry being a Ravenclaw? For one, the dynamics of his friendships and alliances would shift. While he might still bond with Hermione over their shared love for learning, their relationship would likely be more intellectual than emotional. Ron, on the other hand, might feel left out of Harry's inner circle, creating new tensions and challenges in their friendship. And let's not forget the impact of the larger story. With Harry and Ravenclaw, the house itself would gain more prominence in the narrative. Ravenclaw students would have a greater role in key events, showcasing their unique strengths and perspectives. This could lead to a more balanced portrayal of the Hogwarts houses, moving beyond the traditional Gryffindor versus Slytherin rivalry. There's also the question of Harry's leadership style. As a Ravenclaw, he'd be more likely to delegate and seek input from others, valuing collaboration over solo heroics. This might lead to a stronger and more united resistance against Voldemort, with each house contributing its own unique strengths to the fight. So what have we learned from this little thought experiment? If Harry Potter had been sorted into Ravenclaw, the story we know and love would have been full of more strategy, more riddles, and a lot more existential crises. Ravenclaw Harry would still be the boy who lived, but his journey would be shaped by the house's values of intellect, creativity, and individuality. His adventures would be less about bold acts of bravery and more about clever solutions and thoughtful planning. And while he might miss out on some of the camaraderie and recklessness of Gryffindor, he'd gain a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. Would he still have defeated Voldemort? Absolutely! In the end, Ravenclaw Harry's journey would highlight the power of knowledge, creativity, and individuality. Each book would offer new opportunities for Harry to solve problems through intellect and collaboration, showing a side of the wizarding world that often takes a backseat to heroics and action. The magic of the Harry Potter series lies in its ability to explore the complexities of human nature through the lens of fantasy. Each house representing a different facet of who we are, and imagining Harry and Ravenclaw in a way that the original series didn't fully explore would remind us that there's no single path to greatness. Whether you're a Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, or Ravenclaw, your unique qualities have the power to shape your destiny. It reminds us that being a hero isn't just about bravery. It's about thinking differently, valuing different perspectives, and using your unique strengths to overcome challenges. So, what do you think? Would Ravenclaw Harry have been better equipped to face the challenges of his world, or would he have struggled to find his place among his more daring peers? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for joining us on this whimsical journey into the multiverse of Harry Potter. If you enjoyed this what-if scenario, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep pondering the magical what if, and remember, the real magic lies in curiosity. Also, remember, wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure. But maybe keep a few galleons in your Gringotts vault just in case. Catch you next time.